Hey all, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing the Roost from 2005. Four friends crash their car on the highway to a Halloween wedding and wander into a rural Pennsylvania farmhouse where vampire bats and the reanimated dead await. This is the entire premise of Ty West's feature film debut, a film so devoid of life momentum and basic entertainment value that it earns its review that I'm about to give it later on. So I would say, so West would later prove himself capable of far stronger work with the X trilogy, but nothing in this inert, sparsely populated exercise hints at that future because the movie's so bad. The movie begins like one of the old Tales from the Crypt like films with a crypt keeper like horror host introducing the story on a fictional late night program called The Frightmare Theatre. This black and white framing device, complete with its cheesy old school TV horror host energy, made me wonder whether The Rooster was intended to launch a series of films, but ultimately nothing became of it. The host pops back in later to comment on and even rewind the ending, which adds a meta layer that feels more distracting than clever once the main story has already grounded to a halt. These interruptions do not rescue the film, they only underline how little is happening between them. Visually, the film has a really grainy 1970s horror feel, which I liked. The super 18mm texture and heavy shadows occasionally create a modest period atmosphere. A couple of practical zombie effects register without embarrassment. That is the full extent of what actually works for this film. Unfortunately, that is about all the praise I can give this film is the way it looks. I found this movie extremely boring with long stretches in which there's little or no dialogue. The characters are uninteresting. They feel they're actual flat archetypes and also interchangeable young people who walk, sit, and wait in near silence while the camera lingers on empty rooms and dark hallways. No personalities emerge. No relationships develop. No one says or does anything memorable. They exist. They exist only to occupy space until the next long pause. Despite the promising setup involving vampire bats that turn victims into the undead, there is hardly any zombie or vampire bat action, and only a minimal amount of blood is shown on screen. Also, most of the runtime consists of characters wandering or sitting in darkness while the soundtrack attempts to manufacture tension that the images refuse to deliver. Scenes feel randomly assembled and directionless, as if the film were assembled from leftover student footage rather than shaped into a story. The Roost has a decent atmosphere and offers an early look at Thai West style. Isolated locations, also driven by unease, and also the sound is stripped down and has a somewhat creepy score. Those qualities would later serve him well. Here, they are stranded in a narrative that barely exists. As I said previously, there is some creepy like music cues, but not enough for me to praise the film. So the runtime is a lean 80 minutes, yet it feels padded. The slow stretches that some critics praised as tense mostly come across as empty and aimlessly. The framing device interruptions further break whatever modest momentum the farm sequences managed to build. By the end, the host's attempt to fix the conclusion only confirms that the problem the preceding hour plus was so lifeless that artificial intervention was required. So this movie, it's It's dull, inert, nearly eventless. It's a nearly eventless film that mistakes silence and darkness for suspense and never recovers. I didn't really go into detail at the start of my review about the plot. So this movie is about four friends that are about to go on a wedding trip for Halloween, and their car gets stranded, and they come across a farmhouse where vampire bats are residing, and these vampire bats turn people into the undead, into zombies. That's basically the the whole plot of the movie, and even that doesn't even sound interesting at all. So my review for this movie, my score is 1 out of 5. So if you like this sort of content, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more upcoming horror movie reviews in the future. Peace.